anything which lowers a person's energy level or vitality makes that person more susceptible to mind control technologies. Their technology works best in theta state, which is super relaxed to super drowsy, somewhere between 4 and 7 hertz. It's called theta state. It's THETA, theta state. This is where their technology is most effective. Again, anything which lowers a person's energy level or vitality makes that person more susceptible to their technology. Their technology just works better when the victim is in a state of, when the victim's brain is in a state of functional disorientation, like now I've got an hour's sleep just before the doctor's appointment. But it's a game. The torture is based on the hyper game theory. So when you're drowsy and you're kept in this super drowsy state all day, like they've been doing for me for years with this sleep deprivation torture, especially before doctor's appointments, where it's easier to monitor and manipulate, remotely monitor and manipulate the victim's mental substrate, brain, okay? It's easier to do that when the victim is just in this super drowsy state before doctor's appointments or other important appointments. It makes their technology most effective. They use these medical appointments and other such as verification markers for their technology. So it just makes the victim more open and susceptible to mental suggestions, thought-triggered attacks called mental suggestions, okay? Reducing the victim's resistance to the remote neural attacks and the RNM system's influence. I'm sitting here trying to sleep, and I've been I only got an hour's sleep, awakened with a pulse of energy during the wake-up trauma. Wake-up trauma is an important metric in their training, research, and development. I have many videos where they wake me up, my heart is beating very fast and ears ringing, head and ears and pulsating pain. Coming out of that sleep state into alert state, from delta into theta and above, that's the brain waves are an important metric for their training, research, and development. And keeping a person, awake is a really effective way to break the will of the victim to cause a whole range of undesirable side effects. It not only does it make their technology more effective, but it helps to further discredit the victim by making the victim make constant mistakes and poor decisions, which the contractors then capitalize off of to further discredit their victims. But it brings about a whole range of undesirable effects on the victim. The victim appears alert because he's pushed back up out of this super drowsy state with modulation of the phase, frequency, and amplitude. Phase, frequency, and amplitude of the stream of energy. The supercomputer just keeps the victim super drowsy, sleep deprived, and then pushes the victim back up into this alert state by modulation of that stream of energy, the phase, frequency, and amplitude of that stream. So it appears the victim is suddenly alert again. That's an illusion. The victim is severely cognitively impaired. And the system just drops the victim into this vision, only way I know how to describe it, vision blurring, almost passing out drowsiness with each remote neural attack, using drowsiness to trick the brain of the victim to accept the remote neural attack. It also brings on psychosis, breaking down the immune system of the victim, causing all kinds of heart defects and cardiovascular problems. The more you deprive a person of sleep, the more likely it is that they're going to suffer from memory loss and confusion and hallucinations. Again, it's just there can be no mind control, trauma-based mind control without sleep deprivation torture. It's how their technology works. And so I'm sitting here in my sleep. I live in my car because of the brutal violence and the torture, and harassment. And only 1 hour of sleep, but it's hyper game. It's a hyper game. It's a supercomputer using hyper game theory algorithms. The torture is based on that model of deception and manipulation, the hyper game. Look up hyper game theory and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's almost 5 in the morning. It's almost 5 o'clock in the morning. I've only had basically an hour of sleep, and very poor sleep at that. Just a few hours before my appointment, which is, I have to leave an hour and a half away, so even if I were to fall asleep immediately now, I would only have 2, maybe 3 hours of sleep. It's just a brutal game. Torture. And wake up trauma is an important part of that. Wake up trauma is an important part of their technology. The brainwaves of the victim. So they wake the victim up suddenly. And those brainwaves are an important metric in their training, research, and development.